morning and welcome to another edition of Newspaper Review this Wednesday morning on Osbc TV. I am Adeniyi Adebayo. On today's edition, we'll be looking at stories that made it to the front page of newspapers across Nigeria, and we'll be starting with the Point newspaper this morning. The Point newspaper has the following stories. You remain deputy, not acting governor. Ondo lawmakers to Ayedatiwa. Tinubu seeks Senate nod for $8.7 billion, £100 million loans. Departs Abuja for Dubai today for COP28 summit. Still on the Point newspaper this morning, Emefiele fails to meet 300 million naira bail bond to remain in custody till 2024. Slaying Rivers DPO, court grants monarch, others 45 million naira bail. And these are the stories that made it to the Point newspaper this morning. Moving on to Nigeria Standard newspaper this morning, written boldly on the front page, is Tinubu inherited 6 trillion naira debt in road projects. FG reviews draft policy on local vaccine manufacturing. Nigeria, ECOWAS send delegation to Sierra Leone. And still on the Nigerian Standard newspaper this morning, youth unemployment include UYAN in national budget. Arrest of investigative journalists unlawful. And these are the stories that made it to the front page of Nigerian Standard newspaper this morning. We then move on to First News this morning. Governor Otu inaugurates new aircraft, plans for additional 3. Ondo Assembly's plot to declare Ayedatiwa acting governor fails. Adamawa attack. We are not at war with military. IGP. Ex-petroleum minister exceeded in corruption. T.Y. Danjuma. Supreme Court didn't give judgment in Obi's case. Labour Party. INEC should be onboarded, and this coming from Jega. Emefiele to spend Christmas, New Year in prison. Reps move to halt alleged plan by Edo State government to split Benin Kingdom. And still on First News this morning, Rivers Guba, appeal court dismisses case against Fubara. Leadership crisis rock Bauchi Assembly as court sacks speaker, deputy. These are the stories that you'll find on the front page of First newspaper this morning. And moving on to the Blueprint newspaper. Blueprint newspaper has the following stories. Judiciary will redeem own image, sanction erring officials. COVID-19. Reps query water resources ministry over 25 million naira borehole. Appeal court sacks Nasarawa speaker. Beware of ATM swapping fraud. EFCC warns Nigerians. First Bank UK abduct Bloomberg terms to optimize workflow. Anxiety as the capitalization fears grips banks. 1.2 billion naira fraud. Prosecution witnesses clear Emefiele. And these are the stories that made it to the front page of Blueprint newspaper this morning. And on this note, I would like to welcome my guest on today's edition of Newspaper Review, Citizen Lola Way. Thank you for joining me on the show this morning.
It's a pleasure, Adeniyi Adebayo.
We'll start today's review with this story coming up from the Blueprint newspaper that says COVID-19 reps query water resources ministry over 25 million naira borehole.
It is interesting the way public funds are utilized in Nigeria. Usually, most of the time, Nigerian officials that are in position of power always act in their own interests and not in public interest. I wouldn't know how that huge amount of money was spent on boreholes. We need to know where these boreholes were sunk. We need to know exactly how much each borehole cost. And then it is unfortunate that Nigerians are not patriotic. It is not only our leaders that are not patriotic. Ordinary citizens of Nigeria also look for, try to reap from where they didn't sow. They care less about the good of all, but are majorly concerned about what is in every contract for them. That's why Nigeria is a poverty capital of the world. Corruption is our major problem, and until we tackle corruption headline, we will make no progress. We must stop all those unnecessary sentiments, religious and ethnic sentiments, when issues of corruption are brought to the fore. All Nigerians must unite against corrupt officials for Nigeria to progress.
Okay. Speaking about corruption, the Punch newspaper has asked the story about Emefiele. Emefiele fails to meet 300 million bail bond to remain in custody till 2024.
In fact, that's, when you read that headline, it was, I didn't believe it, because this was a man who had, while he was the governor of Central Bank, had a group who bought a 100 million form for him to run as the president of Nigeria. Where is that group now? Where is the group? And then I feel sorry for him, but we know how it feels to be behind bars. He will celebrate Yuletide and New Year behind bars. He will feel what ordinary Nigerians feel. And it is also a lesson for others like him, because he's not the only one. For others like him, when you are in office, act in the best interest of the people. Because I'm a Christian, I believe there is God, and I believe in the law of karma. So many people died during the currency swap. So many businesses were destroyed. So many pregnant women lost their lives. So many new babies died because currency was not available. They didn't have cash to pay for their needs. So many elderly people died because they couldn't access their drugs because of lack of cash. And he remained unperturbed. He remained unmoved. Now nemesis has caught up with him. I believe the spirits of those that died are crying for justice, the way the blood of what's his name? The blood of Abel cried for justice. It's the same way I believe the blood of those who died, the pains of those whose businesses also died is crying for justice. That is why he's been unable, his friends disappear, his accomplices, and those who also believe in him, those his supporters, he went to court to challenge the fact that he could not be a sitting governor of Central Bank and run for the office of Mr. President. I pray that Nigerians learn from his own example.
Okay. We hope and pray Nigerians learn from Emefiele's saga. Then we move to the Nigerian Standard newspaper this morning. It has these stories that says Tinubu inherited 6 trillion naira debt in road project, works ministry. Do you see this hindering further infrastructure?
No, I think there's infrastructural deficit in Nigeria, and we need to work on it. But there must be accountability. There must be transparency. Yeah, we have seen what the money that was spent during Buhari's regime on road construction and repairs. I've seen what the money was used for on Lagos-Ibadan Express Road, Abuja, Kano, and then the second Niger Bridge. Although some unscrupulous Nigerians are already destroying the second Niger Bridge, and I think every well-meaning Nigerian should cry against that and speak against it. And government must also devise means of protecting national assets. The road the bridge that was constructed for the good of all is being destroyed by a few because of their greed, because of the emphasis our religious leaders place on money, because of the emphasis our traditional rulers place on money, because of the way we also treat ordinary Nigerians, the way we look up to money bags as if they are semi-gods, not caring about the source of their wealth. Our attitude to money must change. Our focus must be on the character. Who is the person? Who is this man? Who is this woman?
Rather than focusing on
the material, their material wealth. We should focus on their character, because that is what is important when electing political officers, when giving people chieftaincy titles, when celebrating people in our religious places. We should always look at the character of the person we are celebrating. Is he a good example? When we complain about the attitude of the youth, are we looking at the way the elders that we are showcasing as role models today behave? What is it for them to learn from those role models that we are promoting in the society? Pardon?
Have they laid a good foundation?
Yeah. Those are the things that should be of concern to us and of interest to everybody.
Thank you very much for that. And still on the Nigerian Standard newspaper, FG reviews draft policy on local vaccine manufacturing. Is this good news for Nigerians?
I love Nigeria used to produce vaccines. I want a return to that era when Nigeria was supplying vaccines to the rest of the world. They're talking about diversifying our economy. We know what Nigerians went through during COVID-19. We didn't need to look up to the world. Nigeria is a blessed country in terms of all resources, including herbal medicines. There are herbs that can be used, and then Nigeria is blessed with human resources that have brains.
Yes.
We should make effective use of those brains. We should encourage them to stay here and use their brains for the good of Nigeria and everybody. Everything that needs to be done to make Nigeria great should not be spared. We should plug all loopholes instead.
Thank you for sharing an intensive review on that. And we then move on to the Blueprint newspaper this morning. Anxiety as recapitalization fear grips banks.
I think they need to recapitalize our banks. This is a result of the falling value of our naira. So our banks need to be recapitalized. By the time you convert what they have with central bank to dollar, you will see that we do not have solid banks anymore in Nigeria. Because they fall in the value of naira has eroded whatever capital they had installed with central, and therefore there's a need for them to recapitalize, and there should be no fear. I'm sure that Nigerians who want to invest in banks, knowing fully well that it's a safer means of investment, because while they are sleeping, their money will continue to work for them, except in rare occasions where we have banks dying, and any bank that dies, the executives of those banks should be brought to book. They should be made to account for every kobo, because there's no reason why any bank should liquidate. You don't, because I know that they have stringent conditions for granting loans, and they make a lot of profits. So no bank should go under. Any bank that goes under, the executives must also go under. They should not, the banks they sit on top should not go under, and they emerge as super politicians. They should not be allowed to rob us.
A bank should not be allowed to rob us. And still on issues that has to do with Nigerian banks, still on Blueprints newspaper, it has this story that's beware of ATM swapping fraud. EFCC warns Nigerians.
I think Nigerians should be very careful, because these cyber criminals are moving at a very fast pace. So we also need to be very careful. We should be very careful the way we handle our ATM cards. We should be careful the way we operate online. Scams about free monies. Anybody that is looking for free money is a thief. Should not complain when defrauded. When you seek to reap from where you have not seen, you are simply asking for trouble. So when the trouble comes, you shouldn't complain.
So Nigerians are hereby warned to be very careful as we are moving on to the festive period. Be careful with your ATMs and how you use them. Then we move on to the Guardian newspaper this morning. And this story is written boldly on the front page of the Guardian newspaper, and it says, after $3 billion crude oil deal, Adesina warns against resources-backed debt.
Because by the time the oil is anyway, I think it's a good idea, because we really do not have the money to pay. So that is why government had to resort to using resources to pay for it. But what I suggest is that let us government officials must show the way. If you are telling us to bear with government, then let us see the austere mail that you have also applied. Let us see it in your lifestyle. Not when you say we should bear with government and you import vehicles to the tune of over $1 billion per car. That money can be used to revitalize our health institutions, our educational institutions that will serve many Nigerians. Now many Nigerians are slaving for the comfort of very few Nigerians. It is not good.
Thank you for that. And still on the Guardian newspaper, Tinubu seeks Senate validation for $8.6 billion, 100 million pounds loans approved by Buhari government.
Yes, there's no government that can run without taking loans. But what is important is the judicious utilization of such funds. And for funds to be judiciously utilized, citizens must ask questions, must shine their eyes. When projects when those projects are being embarked upon, we should go there, we should supervise whatever that is being done. We should ensure that the work is done according to the requirements, meets the standards laid out in the paperwork for such projects. We should not lay back only to complain when the bad job is done. We should ensure that the job is done properly, so that we will not spend another money on same projects. And then we should also ensure that every project that has been approved and monetized is done, because so many of the times we hear that the road has been done on paper, but physically the road remains the way it is. We need to also prioritize what the money will be used upon. Are those projects, the infrastructures, the ones that will yield the best dividends for Nigerians? The rural communities need to be looked at. We are talking about diversifying our economy. If the roads to the rural areas where our agricultural products come from is not reachable, then we are doing ourselves a disservice. If we invest money in building schools and universities and other tertiary institutions, and lecturers go on strike for 8 months, of what use is the investment in the infrastructure? If the money is spent on our health facilities and doctors and nurses go on strike for almost a year, of what use is that investment? So as they are investing in infrastructure, they should also ensure that they take care of the human resources that will work in those places, and ensure that road projects are carried out by contractors that have antecedents for delivering good job in good time.
Thank you for that. And lastly, still on the Guardian newspaper, the subsidy removal has battered us with hardship pains, says pensioners.
I agree with them. The pension is static, but the cost of living has gone up. Their children who would have been supporting them are also facing similar situation as them. And these are elderly people. And you know that as you age, you pay a price. There's a price for aging. There are drugs that the elderly people need on regular basis. And the cost of those drugs are also going up. If government is going to help pensioners, they should help them in the area of health. I know Osun State government is trying to do something in that area by asking all pensioners to be registered free of charge on OEs. Beyond registering them on OEs, those expensive drugs that they need because of their age should also be subsidized.
Okay. And still on the Guardian newspaper, over 27 million kids driven into hunger, malnutrition by extreme weather. What is your advice for Nigerians?
I think we should take the issue of climate change seriously. There are so many things that we can do as ordinary Nigerians that we're not doing. There are things that we should not do that we are doing. Throwing our refuse into drainages is one of the examples of the things that we should not do that we are doing. And then to avoid hunger, there's nothing stopping us. We can plant things in buckets. Use disused buckets. We can plant things in them. In our immediate environment, we do not need land to do that.
Thank you very much for that. And on this note, I will come to the end of today's edition of Newspaper Review. Join us tomorrow for another edition of Newspaper Today. I am Adeniyi Adebayo. Have a wonderful morning.